Dr. Brian Bowe, thank you for agreeing to this interview. Welcome. I will ask you a few questions about the organization and to give me an example of one of the projects you're currently involved in. First of all, could you tell me something about the organization?
Yes, we are the largest higher education institute in Ireland in terms of the total number of students. I am from the College of Engineering and Built Environment in Dublin Institute of Technology. Within the College of Engineering and Built Environment, we cover all of the engineering disciplines from mechanical, electronic, electrical, civil, building services and so on. And we also cover what would be more traditionally associated with built environment, construction, architecture, surveying, spatial planning. And we offer programs from apprenticeship levels, where we're a secondary provider, so that's trades like plumbing, electricians, bricklaying, carpentry, all the way up to PhDs in very specialist research areas, and all the grades in between that. So we've predominantly, most of our students would be level 8. These are honours degree students, undergraduate students, but when they finish their undergraduate they can become postgraduate students and either do taught master's programs or MPhil programs. So most of our students, we have approximately 6,000–7,000 students in total. Many of those would be part-time students. Most of our students are full-time students who come from secondary school, second level, but we also have students who would be coming back to upskill. So these would be professionals, they would be graduates, some working, some not, doing part-time programs. And in that context, we deal with a lot of industries because all of our programs are very much industry related. We have policies within the college that all of our programs are accredited by a professional body because it's very important to us that the graduates of our programs are seen as industry ready, in that we have very career focused programs, very, I suppose, informed by what industry wants and what industry needs. I suppose it's the nature of the College of Engineering and Built Environment that it's all very practical subjects that we teach, obviously informed by theory as well, but we would have very close links with industry because we would want industry to see our graduates as being on the way to becoming professional engineers or professional architects. So we would deal with industry to develop programs, but we also deal with industry to inform our own programs.
Could you give me an example of a current project where the university is involved and also business and regional authorities?
Well, I can give, I suppose, a number of concrete examples of where we deal directly with business. Well, we describe that as dealing with industry, and when we say industry, we're talking about employers of our graduates. So that could be from private or public sector. It doesn't necessarily mean a private company. It can also mean organisations and bodies that are representing the employers. So they could be regional bodies, they could be associations or societies of engineers or of architects and so on. So to give a very concrete example of that, a number of our industrial partners run programs. They run their own training, they run their own educational programs. And these are for their own employees, but they want their employees to gain some recognition for doing those qualifications and those courses. So they would want them to get ECTS credits, or they want them to get an award, be that a small CPD course or a larger major award like a degree or a master's. So they would run these programs, and then we accredit the company as an educational provider, so that they still run the programs, but when the students graduate from their programs, they get a DIT award. And that is a very complex, rigorous and arduous process, because first we have to work very specifically with the company or with the association or the society to accredit them as a suitable educational provider. To do that, they have to go through a process of due diligence. We set up a panel, a validation panel, and we go out and we visit them and we look at their facilities, we look at their structures, we look at the way they're resourced, we look at how they do their own quality assurance, how they employ the educators on their programs, and so on. So an example of that, Engineers Ireland, which is it's a representative body of engineering employers and practicing engineers in Ireland, and it has agreement with similar bodies internationally through things such as the Washington Accord, which basically ensures that graduates from our programs, if Engineers Ireland accredit our programs, that they're recognised internationally as engineers. But they also run, for their members, they run CPD courses. So we are going through the process at the moment where we have accredited Engineers Ireland as a suitable educational partner, and now we're looking at validating the actual programme. So when their members do their CPD programs, this particular programme, they can get a DIT award for that with ECTS credits at postgraduate level. So then they can use that to do in a transferable way, the whole rationale of ECTS credits, and they can also use it if they want to do a master's. They might be able to get recognition of the prior learning through this programme. So to do that, we have to, obviously, how effective that process is very much dependent on how effective our communication is with Engineers Ireland. Luckily, we have had close ties with Engineers Ireland for many, many years because of our running engineering programs, and they accredit our programs. But the process has involved a college representative, which has been myself as role of Head of Learning Development, and having some responsibility for quality assurance, and also someone from the Quality Assurance Office in DIT, meeting with a representative of Engineers Ireland, or representatives from Engineers Ireland, and going through the process and and these would be face-to-face meetings. What needs to happen, what needs to be done, what documentation needs to be produced. They would then produce that documentation, and after that we tend to communicate through email. So it'd be sending documents, we'd read the documents, we'd redraft them, we'd send them back, they would change them and so on. And that communication then, when it results in a document, we would then meet with them again, we would go through some of the formalities, we then set up a panel. The panel is made up of entirely DIT people that they visit Engineers Ireland headquarters where they run these programs, and they go through the process of looking at their different facilities and different structures and so on. When that's complete, we then draft a partnership agreement. The partnership agreement it's a legal agreement, so it deals with the role, DIT's role, DIT's responsibilities, but also Engineers Ireland's role, their responsibilities. There's obviously some negotiation and agreement through that to say, yes, we're happy with these conditions. That is then signed by the Director General of Engineers Ireland and the President of DIT. It's in draft format at the moment. When that is signed, we can then validate the actual programme. And the same process happens actually again. We will meet with them to look at the programme document. We will ensure that it's in the proper format. We'll ensure that all our quality assurance procedures and general assessment regulations have been followed. It'll then be signed off. That is added as an addendum to the agreement. And again, everybody's roles as the course continues is very clear.
And can you tell me something about the challenges that you encounter in the communication strategy and how you use social media in this communication strategy?
Well, in that example, we don't use any social media. It's all either face-to-face or email. We would tend to use social media dealing with other stakeholders, not industry. We would use Facebook, for instance, in communicating with students. Our own students, but also to try and communicate with potential students. As I said, the majority of our students come from second level, so for them to find out about DIT's programs. So if we want them to know about what do we do in DIT, what type of engineering programs do we have, what type of architecture programs, surveying, planning and so on, we need to communicate, we need to get to them, we need to provide some mechanism for them to find that out. We do that through a number of mechanisms. We visit schools, we send brochures, we send things out, but we found in the last couple of years a very effective way of doing it is through Facebook. So we send them a link basically to Facebook, and that builds up because most of the people that use the Facebook site are our own students that are there at the moment. They add things on. They tend to, for instance, I'll give an example. Some of our students were working on, mechanical engineering students were working on development of a car. This is a racing car for a competition. But when they had it done, working on it, the final touches, they videoed this, they put that on YouTube, and then they put the YouTube link onto Facebook. So potential students can go onto this Facebook site and see, well, what do our students actually do? Because the students are updating it all the time, and then they're putting different videos. So the architecture students will put up something that they designed on it. It's becoming a very sort of vibrant environment without any real input from staff. We do put notifications on it now and then. In terms of challenges, and I'll go back to our links then with industry, and the biggest challenge, I suppose, there is time. It's finding the time, because everybody's very busy, both in industry and everybody's busy in academia. And although you might set up a communication strategy that involves emails back and forward, it's responding to those emails and being able to prioritize those emails and say, yes, I need to get back quickly. So a process that should take a couple of months can tend to take 6 to 8 months because of the length of time between responding to emails. Because the nature of business and the nature then of academia is that there's often issues that need to be addressed very quickly. For instance, if the existing students, if there's an issue that needs to be resolved, that will take priority because that might be affecting our current students. And the same, similarly for industry, if there's something that's affecting the day-to-day running of this, that will take priority, whereas this is seen as something that can develop over time. So the biggest challenge is finding the time to dedicate to that because our number of partnerships are growing and we don't have anyone dedicated to managing the partnerships within the college, and I think that is by far the biggest challenge we have.